这种的问题呢，不是一朝一夕，不是一天呢就可以做到的。这一切事情呢，都是听因缘。这个佛呀，成佛不是一天成，三期修福慧，百劫众相好，然后才成佛。三大阿僧祇劫修福修慧。他们这个耶稣教不但耶稣教，就是所有的宗教都包括在内。他现在呀是这种的因成熟了，所以他信这种教。这种教啊，他信来信去，都是会走到佛教里头，不是说他现在信不信的问题。这将来呀，他要是这机缘成熟了，他自然就会到佛教。有很多信耶稣教、天主教也很有知识的分子，那么然后呢，他都来信佛教。为什么呢？他就因为在他那里边呢，教的太狭窄，太小了，所以他就会走到这个佛教这个途径。佛所以伟大的原因呢，我常常讲，它不是自私的，它是一个公开的。
Okay, so as far as this question is concerned, you couldn't really have this kind of response in a day or a night. All these comes from causes and conditions. Just like Buddhas do not realize Buddhahood within a day. It takes 3 great kalpas asankhya kalpas to cultivate blessings and wisdom, and it takes another 100 kalpas to cultivate for his fine and adorned appearances. Then the Buddha will realize Buddhahood. So he would have to cultivate blessings and wisdom for 3 great asankhya kalpas. Now, for those people who believe in Jesus, not only those people who believe in Jesus, all the religions are included. Right now, because the causes are ripened, so they believe in whatever religions they believe in. But doesn't really matter what kind of religions they believe in, they will eventually come into Buddhism. I'm not saying that it's a question of faith or not. It's just that in the future, when the causes and conditions are ripened, he will naturally come into Buddhism. Many people who believe in Jesus or Catholicism were really well educated, and eventually they come into Buddhism. Why is that? It's because they think that Judeo-Christian religions were too narrow, too small. So they walk into Buddhism, they believe in Buddhism. I often tell you about this. The reason why Buddhism is so great is because the Buddha is not selfish. He's open to public.
耶稣教他说只有一个真神，没有其他的神。他这就好像那个小乘佛教说只有一个释迦牟尼佛，没有十方佛，是一样的道理。因为这个耶稣这个在以前他失踪了5年呢，谁也不知道他到什么地方去了。没有了，他在这个时候就是到印度去学佛教。学佛教他所学的呢，就是《弥陀经》的道理。那《弥陀经》讲的是西方极乐世界，他回来呢就变一变相说是天国，他讲的就讲天国。那么在这个耶稣教往往呢，他们有一种感应看见他们说他们那个圣子穿白衣服的那个是圣子，其实那个就是观世音菩萨。 他们硬拉去啊，说这是耶稣的母亲。那个因为什么观世音菩萨去帮助他们？因为他们有的时候也很诚心的。那么很诚心的观世音菩萨，他随类现身。那么你说我圣母就圣母，你说我是什么，他也不和他辩别。
Okay, so for Christian religion, it only talks about one true God. There is no other gods. Just like in the Theravada tradition, they only recognize one Shakyamuni Buddha. There are no Buddhas in the 10 directions. It's the same principle. So Jesus in the past was missing in action for 5 years, and no one knew where he went. Well, what happened was he went to India to learn Buddhism. And what he learned was the principles in the Amitabha Sutra. In Amitabha Sutra, we talked about the land of ultimate bliss in the West. So when he learned about this and he came back to his country, he changed the name and said, he changed the appearances and said that, oh, this is actually the heavens and the paradise. And so that's what they talked about in Christian religion. And they also have a kind of response. Sometimes they will say, oh, we see the Blessed Virgin Mary. The one who was in white robe was the Blessed Virgin Mary. Well, that's actually Guanyin Bodhisattva. But they force it to be the mother of Jesus Christ. Why is that? It's because Guanyin Bodhisattva went to help them. Because some of these people are really sincere, and so Guanyin Bodhisattva will appear in front of them with different forms based on who they are. And Guanyin thinks that, okay, if you think I'm the Blessed Virgin Mary, then I'm the Blessed Virgin Mary. He didn't really argue with them.
那么在明眼人知道这是观世音菩萨，不一般没有眼睛的人呢，就说啊这是圣母，他根本不认识的。那么观音菩萨他也不拘形迹，你就说他圣母也好，说他是凡母也好，说他什么他也不辨别，他也不开口的，所以这样你相信，你信圣母也好也一样，你信耶稣也是一样的。所以我不反对人信耶稣教，也不反对人信天主教。你信，只要你相信，慢慢你一定走到佛教这个道路上。不过早晚而已，这个不是今天就可以改变的。你今天，譬如你有这种因缘，你就可以改变；没有这个因缘，你就不能改变。要等一等，就是等或者来生啊，再来生，再来生。无论哪一生，你要机缘因缘成熟了，你这个菩提种子成熟了，还是会来小佛法。
So for people with bright eyes would know that, oh, that's Guanyin Bodhisattva, and people do not have this kind of eyes and say, oh, this is the Blessed Virgin Mary. Well, they don't really even know who this person is. So basically, Guanyin Bodhisattva is not really limited to the way she appears or he appears, or limited to his tracks. If you say, oh, that's the Holy Mother, that's fine. That's the Blessed Virgin Mary, that's fine. Or if you say, oh, that's the Ordinary Mother, that's fine too. Whatever you say he is, he doesn't really argue with you. He doesn't debate with you because he doesn't open his mouth. As long as you as long as you believe, whether you believe in the Blessed Virgin Mary, it's the same. Whether you believe in Jesus Christ, it's the same. So I'm not opposed to people believing in Jesus Christ. I don't oppose to people who believe Catholicism. As long as you believe in one of those, eventually, slowly, you will walk on the path of Buddhism. It's just a matter of time. It's not something you can change today. For example, if you have this kind of causes and conditions, then you can change. If you don't, then you can't change it. You have to wait. And that's all you have to do. Perhaps in the future life, the next life, perhaps in the next life. Doesn't matter which life. As long as the causes and conditions are ripened, your seeds for Bodhi in Buddhism will also ripen. And when that happens, you will still come back to learn Buddhism.
他就是信耶稣教、天主教反对佛教的，他终究就是反对的，他也会将来信仰佛教也可以成佛，没有佛绝对说啊，你以前反对我，现在你不可以成佛了，没有的，你就是谤佛的人，也不你要信佛了也不会下地狱的，不是像那啊，你下地狱永远都是下地狱，你升天就是永远都是升天的，无有定法，没有一定的。
Okay, so even Christians or Catholics who oppose Buddhism will eventually believe in Buddhism in the future. They can also become a Buddha. So the Buddha would never said, "Oh, you opposed me in the past. Now you cannot realize Buddhahood." There's no such thing. Even if you had slandered Buddhas in the past and now change to believe in the Buddha, you will not fall into the hells. It's not the case that once you fall into the hells, you will be in the hells forever, or if you ascend to the heavens, you will stay in the heaven forever. There is no fixed dharma. It's not certain.
为什么说反对佛的人、毁谤佛的人，可以成佛呢？你们听过我以前讲过这个提婆达多，这个提婆达多是最反对佛教的，他破坏佛法最厉害。佛的弟子吃斋不吃肉，他说我叫人连鲜盐都不吃啊。佛的弟子，佛教弟子啊是日中一食，他呢叫他徒弟100天也不吃啊，100天不吃东西，他总想啊，他这个法比佛高得多，那么以后升陷地狱，就这个肉体呀就堕地狱了。堕地狱等将来的时候，他这个罪业满了，他还会成佛的，并且这。
So why do I say that those who oppose to the Buddhas or slander the Buddhas could realize Buddhahood? Now you've heard me talk about this in the past when I lecture on the sutras. I talk about Devadatta, who really opposed Buddhism, and he really slandered the Buddhas the worst, in the worst ways. So Buddha's disciples only ate vegetarian food and not meat, and he said, "Oh, if you eat vegetarian without eating meat, then I can tell people to not even eat salt." Now the Buddha's disciples will eat 1 meal a day. So he taught his disciple to not eat for 100 days. He always thought that his dharma is higher than that of the Buddhas. Eventually he sunk into the hells alive, basically saying that when he was alive, his flesh body, his physical body sunk into the hells. But in the future, when his karma was burned up, he will still realize Buddhahood.
这个提婆达多在无量劫以前，他是这个释迦牟尼佛的师父，所以呀，他这个不过来反面呢，来这个帮助佛，不同这个方法不同，就是看看佛有没有忍力，看看佛呀究竟是还有没有这个无明。那么好像这个刀啊很快刀耐，很一割东西就割断了。为什么它这么快呢？因为以前用磨石磨的，这个磨石把它磨的很快，这个佛成佛是那个魔王来磨它， 把它磨成佛了。也就像那个刀啊，那块是那个磨石把它磨的成一个块刀啊。你想提婆达多对佛怎么样不好，将来他还可以成佛。咱们有这个就知道啊，你谁谤佛呀，都不会不成啊。但是也不谤，比较谤好一点。
So, in an immeasurable kalpas ago, Devadatta was actually Shakyamuni Buddha's teacher. So he was just trying to help the Buddha from the opposite side, using different methods to help him, to see if the Buddha has any power of patience, to see if the Buddha still had any ignorance left. It's just like a knife that is really sharp, that could just cut off things really fast. Why is the knife so sharp? It was because it was sharpened by wisdom. And you have this kind of sharpening stone that could sharpen the knife so that the knife becomes very sharp. Well, basically, the Buddha was sharpened by the demon kings. He was sharpened by the demon kings so that he eventually realized Buddhahood, so-called. So then, it's just like that sharp knife. The reason why the knife is so sharp is because it was sharpened by wisdom. That's why it's so sharp. Now you think about how Devadatta was treating the Buddha so badly, but in the future he could still become a Buddha. From here, you should know that whoever slanders the Buddha will eventually become a Buddha. It means they will not become the Buddha. But it's better to not slander the Buddha.
因为什么呢？你谤佛呀，有很远的时候，将来呀，很长的时间才可以成佛。好像提婆达多，那他经过几万那么多年，将来呀几万大劫，然后才可以成佛。这个时间太长了。那么在
So why is it better that we don't slander the Buddha, although you will still become a Buddha? It's because when you slander the Buddha, you have to wait for a long time before you can realize Buddhahood. Just like Devadatta, he had to go through millions of years and millions and millions and great kalpas before he can realize Buddhahood. So the time it takes is actually way too long.
耶稣教、天主教有这个教义，他说：“你信我，你就造罪业也升天，啊，只要你信我就得了。你要不信我，你就有什么功也要堕地狱的。”这简直是不讲道理。你们想一想，啊，就现在呢，这个教义就在这个地方。信我，造罪业就是土匪也会升天的，啊，土匪。你不信我，你就是世间最好的善人，你做的功德很大的，也要堕地狱的，啊。你们想这个是个什么道理啊？这岂不是一个最自私的、最独裁的啊、最不公平的一个道理？世界上不要说宗教，就世界上也没有这个不公平的道理。这个不公平的道理，一般人很多人相信这个道理的人，这简直的，这一点思想都没有了，啊，没有人的思想。
Okay, so in Christianity or Catholicism, they have this doctrine. It says, if you believe me or believe in me, have faith in me, even if you create offenses, you can also be born in the heavens. That's all you have to do. Just believe in me, have faith in me. If you don't have faith in me, you don't believe in me, doesn't really matter what kind of merit and virtue you create, you will fall into the hell too. well, this is totally unreasonable. You all think about it. This is the doctrines of Christians and Catholicism. It says that if you believe me, you create offenses or create sins. Even if you're bandits, you will also be born in the heavens. If you don't believe me, you could be the best person in the world. You could have greatest merit and virtue. You will still fall into the hells. Now you think about this. What kind of principle is this? Isn't this the most selfish and most authoritative and most unfair principle in this world? Now, let's not talk about religious principles. Even in this world, we don't have this kind of unfair principles. This is really not fair. But a lot of people believe in it. They really believe in this kind of principles and doctrines. Now, if you do, then you have no thinking at all. You don't have thinking of a human being.
Any
other questions?
I don't know if the habit of being spiritually benefit is fasting, like saying long fasting.
对这个，
这就是一种苦恨，不是价值不价值的问题。你人最重要的是吃东西和这个女色。你能不吃东西，这人人不容易做到。这个还有这个色的问题，这也人人都放不下的。你能以人放不下的事情，你能以把它放下。
Okay, so basically, there was a question asked, and talking about the practice of Buddhism, whether it's worth it or not. So Venerable Master said this is actually a kind of ascetic practice. It's not an issue of whether it's worthy or not. Now, for people, for human beings, the most important thing is food and lust. Now, if you have the ability to not eat, then that's not very easy. Now, if you can do it, that's not easy, but then you still have the issue of lust. And everyone has to put that down. Now, when people can put it down, if you can, then that's really good. It's really not an issue of whether it's worth it or not. This is just cultivation. Everyone has everyone's method of cultivation. They all have their path they have to walk on. They all have their path of cultivation.